بسم الله. الحمد لله وحده والصلاة والسلام على من لا نبي بعده وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تمسك بسنته إلى يوم الدين وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد. We continue in this tremendous treatise entitled Sharh al-Fatwa al-Hamawiyyah al-Kubra by the great Imam Abu al-Abbas Taqi-ud-Din Ahmad ibn Abd al-Halim ibn Abd al-Salam ibn Taymiyyah al-Harrani al-Dimashqi rahimahullah, who passed away and died 728 after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. The time now is 7:10 p.m. Wednesday, July the 27th, which agrees with the Tariq al-Hijri, with the Islamic date. Currently is 28th of the Hijjah. This day, like we said, Wednesday, Yom al-Arbi'a, the year 1443, the year 1443, after the migration of our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. We stopped at the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah where he says, rahimahullah, وروى أبو القاسم الأزجي بإسناده عن مطرف ابن عبد الله قال سمعت مالك بن أنس إذا ذكر عنده من يدفع أحاديث الصفات يقول قال عمر بن عبد العزيز سن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وولاة الأمر بعده سننا الأخذ بها تصديق لكتاب الله واستكمال لطاعة الله وقوة على دين الله ليس لأحد من خلق الله تغييرها ولا النظر في شيء خالفها فمن اهتدى بها فهو مهتد من استنصر بها فهو منصور من خالفها واتبع غير سبيل المؤمنين والله الله ما تولى وأصلاه جهنم وساءت مصيرا. You'll find the Shaykh al-Islam as he continues, he says, that was narrated by Abu al-Qasim al-Azji. Who's Abu al-Qasim al-Azji? His name was Abdul Aziz ibn Ali al-Azji al-Khayyat. This word al-Azji meaning it was inscribed to a city currently in Baghdad. Where's Baghdad, everyone? In Iraq. Where's Baghdad located? Where is it? Iraq. There's a little area in Baghdad that was called Azaj. So Abu Qasim was ascribed to who? To this place where he resided or where he was born. So this place, like we said, Azaj was a small place inside of Baghdad, where it's currently in Iraq. Rawa Abu Qasim al-Azji, he brought the chain upon Mutarrif ibn Abdullah. We'll talk about how Mutarrif ibn Abdullah was Khal al-Imam Malik. He was the one? He was the maternal uncle of Imam Malik. The maternal, not paternal, maternal, meaning from the mother's side. From the mother's side of Imam Malik, Mutarrif ibn Abdullah. We'll talk about who he is in a minute. Matter of fact, we'll talk about it right now. Mutarrif, his name was Mutarrif ibn Abdullah ibn Yasar al-Yasadi. His nickname was kunya was Abu Mus'ab. His kunya was Abu Mus'ab. Abu Mus'ab. وكان يسار مكاتبا لرجل من أسلم فأدى عنه عبد الله بن فروة. But anyway, we'll talk about that later. I don't want to get too much into the history of Mutarrif. We just know that Mutarrif was Khal, he was the maternal, who? The maternal uncle of the Imam Malik on the mother's side. So we say maternal, we mean from the mother's side. He was a Khal. We know Am. What does Am mean? That's the paternal uncle from the brother, or from the father's side. But anyway, Mutarrif ibn Abdullah, he said, I heard from Malik. So he narrated upon his what? It's narrated upon his nephew, أحسنت. قال سمعت مالك ابن أنس إذا ذكر عنده ما يدفع أحاديث الصفات. He said, I heard Imam Malik, if it was mentioned to him, one or who rejects the narrations of Allah's names and attributes, he would say this. He would say, Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the great Imam, we'll talk about him also. He said that the message of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, that he brought, and he had what? Made obligatory sunan or sanan. Sunan, what is the meaning of sunan? Prophetic ways and traditions and beliefs. Beliefs to hold on to cling to with your molar teeth. Meaning, your survival depends on you understanding them properly and holding on to them firmly. So, Imam Malik related the statement upon Umar ibn Abdul Aziz that the message of Allah alayhi salatu wasalam brought sunan, prophetic traditions and understandings and beliefs, and the wulatul amr, and the rulers after him. However, we'll talk about in a minute, the meaning of rulers here in this context means the al-khulafa al-rashidun, meaning the rightly guided predecessors that came after the message of Allah, who are Abu Bakr, Umar, and who? Uthman and Ali. So that's what he's speaking about here in this context. We'll talk about that in a minute. He said that all of them brought forth sunan. We can also say sanan. Can you do me a favor? Can anybody dump the fan on? Yeah. Just keep the flies away. If it gets too cold, I'll just turn it off. Like sunan or sanan. So the message of Allah also brought what? Prophetic traditions, beliefs, and ways for us to hold on to cling to firmly. Meaning, holding on to those beliefs and those understandings and those convictions, your survival relies on you holding firm to them, steadfast to them. Because the message of Allah had informed that there will be trials and tribulations and events and occurrences that could be a reason for your destruction or taking you astray. And that these are all the tests that you will face. But your survival is to rely on what I have given you, of what? Proper guidance. When we say proper guidance meaning knowledge, the proper knowledge. So the message of Allah, the great Imam Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, said that the message of Allah والسلام, brought these ways, these what? Beliefs, and the rulers. However, we said that the meaning of rulers in this context is what? Al-Khulafa al-Rashidun. طيب. Now listen to what Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, and he says, Al-Akhdhu biha tasdiqun li kitabillah, wastikmalun li ta'atillah, wa quwwatun ala dinillah, laysa li ahadin min khalqillah taghyiruha. So listen to what the great Imam, he says. He says, accepting those ways and those beliefs and those prophetic traditions, those prophetic ways, accepting them and firmly what? Believing them is belief in the book of Allah and completing the obedience of Allah. And it will be strength to hold firmly to the religion of Allah. Meaning by you holding on to those ways and those beliefs and those understandings and fully accepting those prophetic traditions and ways of our Prophet ﷺ. It is not for anyone from the creation of Allah to change it. It's not for anyone of the creation of Allah to change it. Nor to look for anything that opposes it. Whoever is rightly guided by it, then whoever takes it as a guidance, then he will be rightly guided. وَمِنْ اسْتَنْصَرَ فَهُوَ مَنْصُورٌ. Whoever takes it as a source of victory, or to be aided by, then he will be aided. meaning Allah will give him tawfiq and success. وَمَنْ خَالَفَهَا وَاتَّبَعَ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ وَاللَّهُ اللَّهُ مَا تَوَلَّى. Now listen to this last part, the great Imam Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he says, rahimahullah, he says, whoever opposes it and he follows a way other than the believers, meaning the path of the believers, and we know the meaning of the ayah here is the Sahaba, Allah will turn him to what he is turned to, and he will burn him in hell, and what an evil abode it is. وَمَا سَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا, what an evil abode it is. So you'll find that the Imam Malik, what did he do? The great Imam in the time of the Tabi'een said this great statement. You'll find that he mentioned the statement of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah, which is a statement that is very profound, very important for one to contemplate. Notice that the Salaf were straight to the point in their statements, and their statements were the most what? Beneficial. They were short, straight to the point, and the meanings were what? Very impactful upon the people. They weren't long pages after pages after pages after pages. They were short sentences, very powerful, concise, strong statements that the people were what? Rightly guided by. So you'll find that Umar ibn Abdul Aziz rahimahullah, he said this upon the great Imam Malik. Shaykh al-Islam goes on to say, because we're going to explain all this. وَرَوَى الْخَلَّالُ, we talked about the great Imam, who? Abu Bakr, Ahmad, ibn Muhammad ibn al-Khallal, rahimahullah, al-Hanbali. We saw وَرَوَى al-Khallal in his book called Sunnah ibn al-Khallal. We talked about that, right? He said, بِإِسْنَادٍ كُلُّهُمْ أَئِمَّةٌ ثِقَاتٍ عن سفيان بن عيينة قال سئل ربيعة ابن أبي عبد الرحمن عن قول الله تعالى الرحمن على العرش استوى كيف استوى؟ قال الاستواء غير مجهول والكيف غير معقول ومن الله الرسالة وعلى الرسول البلاغ المبين وعلينا التصديق. Shaykh al-Islam goes on to say that the great Imam al-Khallal, his name was what again? Who was his name? Abu Bakr. What was his real name now? Ahmad ibn Muhammad, the great Imam. You'll find that he put in his book called Sunnah ibn al-Khallal that he said, with a chain of authentic great ai reliable, trustworthy narrators from the great Imams of this religion, upon the great Imam Sufyan ibn Uyayna, that he said, قال, it was asked Rabi'ah ibn Abi Abdur Rahman. Who's Rabi'ah ibn Abi Abdur Rahman? Shaykh al-Imam Malik. He was the Shaykh of Imam Malik. About the statement of Allah in his book, the most merciful above the Arsh ascended. The most merciful above the throne ascended. Ar-Rahman ala al-Arsh istawa. So it was asked, how did Allah ascend? كيف استوى? قال, Imam, they say this statement is upon Rabi'ah ibn Abi Abdur Rahman, the Shaykh of Imam Malik. He said, al-istiwa'u ghayr majhul. That ascension is ghayr majhul, meaning that it is known. It's known. Meaning the meaning, ma'lum al-ma'na. Wal-kayf ghayr ma'qul. Understand or comprehending how Allah did it is what? Cannot be what? Attained. How Allah tabarak wa ta'ala did that. Wal-kayf ghayr ma'qul. How Allah did it cannot be understood. Meaning the kayfiyah. From Allah is a risala. From Allah is the message. Meaning Allah revealing it. And upon the message of Allah was the clear conveyment of it. And upon us is its submittance in belief. وهذا الكلام مروي عن مالك بن أنس تلميذ ربيعة من غير وجه. However, we'll talk about in a minute that this statement, as we know, brothers and sisters, has been ascribed and been known, which has been widely conveyed upon the great Imam Malik. So we'll talk about in a minute. طيب. So that's the statement of Shaykh al-Islam. That's the statement of Shaykh al-Islam in this context here. So let's now explain the statement of Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, as we mentioned, what he's affirming here, I shouldn't say affirming, rather what is he's establishing here. Keep in mind, like we said, we're in the chapter where Shaykh al-Islam is bringing the statements in order to support the claim of his call. Meaning, Shaykh al-Islam was calling the people to a certain belief that some of the Muslims... Your pencil. He's trying to give you back your pencil. He never... Okay. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah was writing a call. He was writing a call and a belief, calling the people to a certain call that some of the Muslims during the time thought it was innovative. He thought it was new. He thought that he was called to something that's something that's unprecedented. So Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, as we know, he was the mujaddid of what century, everyone? The mujaddid of the 7th and 8th century. Because we know Shaykh al-Islam died when? 728. So he was considered, his tajdeed was considered, if you want to say, of the 7th and 8th century. Right? طيب. Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah, when he was calling the people to this Aqidah, a lot of people were accusing him of what? You brought a new madhab, you brought a new way of belief, or you brought something newly introduced. None of the Muslims knew this. What is this? So Shaykh al-Islam wrote this book. As we know, a lot of people during his time were asking, clarify to the Muslims, rather, what is the correct belief of the Muslims? And we know he sent different rasail to the people of what? Wasit. So he called it, what are we going? Al-Aqidat al-Wasitiyah. Some of those books you not find that he wrote it in a day, in less than a day. Those are rasail. Yes, he wrote it less than a day. Especially Al-Aqidat al-Wasitiyah. It's very short. Wrote it in one day. Al-Aqidat al-Wasitiyah, he sent it to the people of Wasit. And the people of Hama also asked him for the same thing. Clarify to us the correct belief of the Muslims. He wrote the book and he sent it to the people of Hama. And that's why it was called what? Hamawiyyah. And similar to that, he also sent it to the people of Tadmur. To Tadmur. It was called Tadmuriyah. Anyway, Shaykh al-Islam was bringing his evidence and proofs. All these narrations and reports that he's mentioning here is all to support and substantiate his claim. That's all. He's trying to validate his call by bringing evidences and proofs and saying and establishing to the Muslims, what I'm calling you to is the actual pure teachings of Islam. It's the pure orthodox Islam that the Messenger of Allah brought, but you left it off. You abandoned it. Or something crept in it of beliefs that you adopted that was in opposition to the pure belief. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we know, after centuries, we know the Messenger of Allah informed there will be people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give them success to be revivers. Not prophets, not messengers, revivers. As we know the hadith of Bukhari, where the Messenger of Allah said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَبْعَثُ عَلَى رَأْسِ كُلِّ مِئَةٍ سَنَةٍ مَنْ يُجَدِّدُ لَهُمْ دِينَهُمْ. May you jaddid, tajdeed. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will send after the head of every 100 years, who will revive for them their religion. Revive, meaning he will call them and he will clarify and he will refute all the different what? All the different opposition, all different affairs of opposition, whether they be from the affairs of innovative practices, innovative beliefs, or different types of people that have led them astray, and their different types of writings. That individual will come and clarify the truth, calling them to what they left off, calling them to what they abandoned, calling them to what they're practicing that is in opposition of the Book of Allah and in opposition of the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. That's all Shaykh al-Islam is doing here in this book. And he's continuing to bring evidence and proof after proof of bringing people from the time of the Messenger of Allah and statements of the Salaf to support his claim and to support what? His call. To let every Muslim know, this, what I'm telling you, is nothing new. I'm calling you to come back and return to what you abandoned. Or what you was misled by. To leave that off and embrace the pure teachings of what Allah revealed, a pure revelation. Not saying that those affairs has changed the religion, no. Because no one could change the book of Allah or the sunnah message of Allah. However, the evil ideologies and practices of those who deviated, they could be easily the people could be easily fooled by them. But the truth is still there. That's the point. The people just have to either be enlightened about it, or have to for it to be clarified to them, so they can abandon what is incorrect and to embrace what is correct. Right. So we go on to say, Shaykh al-Islam is bringing all these statements by its wording, in order to what? For it could be an evidence upon what was the aqidah to Salaf. And like we said, he was the reviver of Tajdeed al-Qarn al-Sabi' al-Thamin, as we said. He was the reviver of the 7th and 8th century, and it was not a new belief he was bringing. People will think so, but that wasn't the case. Rather, you'll find that the belief that the great Imam was bringing was extracted from the book of Allah and the sunnah, the message of Allah, alayhi salatu wassalam, and this is what the Salaf practice. Meaning, who's the Salaf when we say the companions of the message of Allah? The companions of the message of Allah, this was their belief. And those had taken knowledge from them are called the Tabi'een, this was also their belief. And those who followed the Tabi'een, who are called the Tabi'een, this was also their belief. So, our religion is a chain that's passed on from one generation to what? To the next. And that anybody deviate from that affair, we know that Umar ibn Abdul Aziz said that those who abandon this belief and abandon this proper guidance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will burn him in hell where the evil abode it is. A lot of people think this affair is something that is optional. It's optional. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. As long as I'm Muslim, even though I might have adopted certain beliefs that are in opposition to the book of Allah, in actuality, these beliefs are kufr. You'll find that some of these ideologies are what? Disbelief. As we talked about in many classes before, everyone, we said the affairs of philosophy, the ending result of it is kufr. The ending result of it is disbelief. The rejection of Allah's names and attributes, or the rejection that Allah is not above, or that Allah is everywhere, ultimately it instills doubt in a person. Then the ultimate result of it in the end is atheism. The end result is atheism. That's why Shaykh al-Islam wrote this book clarifying the importance of holding on to the correct belief. Because the ultimate result of all these deviated, perverted ideologies, the ultimate result of it down the road is atheism. The rejection that Allah doesn't have His names, no attributes is all what? Something that doesn't exist. So what is atheism? The belief that Allah what? Doesn't exist. Either they do it in totality or they do it partially. By denying some of the names and some of the attributes. If you want to say that's a partial type of atheism. But then once you deny it all, then it's what? It's a complete atheism. Complete atheism. Denial of Allah's existence. So that's the reason why Shaykh al-Islam was what? Clarifying these matters. Because they're of great importance. That the Muslims cling to it. Because the denial of Allah's existence, ultimately it will cause the societies in the world to be what? Chaotic. That's the reason why you'll find that liberalism is what's dominating. And you see that's what's bringing the world to tearing it apart. This wave of liberalist ideologies is being forced and pushed upon the people in so many ways. And you find it's connected with LGBTQ and the likes of that. All of this type of strong, heavy type of perverted beliefs is being pushed on society, and you see the result of it. It's tearing the societies apart, making them divided and worse than ever. That's why holding on to this belief of what we're teaching the people in these classes is what's going to not only solve the problem, but it's also going to allow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath and anger to be what? Lightened. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not to be what? Angry with us. But as a result of these liberalistic type of ways and ideas that's being pushed on society, the ultimate or from the usul, if you want to say, of liberalists, is they think religion is the problem in general. All of it. That's why they're trying to what? Take it away. They're trying to eradicate it. Take religion and destroy it completely. What's so strange is a lot of liberalists is contradictory, because if you believe in an unseen force like the devil, then that's contradictory. So you denying a law, but you're from the devil? That doesn't make any sense. So who created the devil then? You understand, everyone? Doesn't make any sense. It's contradictory. And like we said, in addition to that, you'll find that a lot of what? A lot of the atheists, from the heads, if you do go back to their history, to this day, the heads of the atheists, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, has shown as a proof and evidence the greatest of so-called, I won't say greatest with us, greatest with them, respected with them. Their great so-called scholars that's respected and revered with them even have retracted their statement of atheism. The greatest of so-called philosophers with them, and I said not with us, with them. They, because I have to say that, I have to repeat myself online, you never know. People, Abdur Razzaq said, the great scholar of atheism, because it has happened. But I said the great with them, not with us, with them, who they glorify and respect. Their own glorified and revered so-called with them scholars, they even retracted in the last part of their lives what? Atheism. So if these are people you revere, you honor, respect, how come you're not taking their statements? They are the greatest of your so-called scholars. To let you know what you're upon is what? False. So these are the affairs you'll find that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala constantly makes his signs clear by destroying these causes. And liberalism is going to die too. Rather, it's failing right now. Even the non-Muslims are starting to make war with it. And they're not liking it. Because they see where it's going with the society. It's tearing it apart. It's eradicating, destroying, and bringing it down. So these affairs, like we said, brothers and sisters, what Shaykh al-Islam was calling to, and what is the beliefs that we'll find that is correct, and what will be the reason of solving the people's problems. You want to be here? Right. You want to go outside? You want to go outside? You want to stay here?
I just understand that.
What's up? Okay. All right. But so the affair of what's pertaining to what Shaykh al-Islam called to was the seventh, the tajdeed, or revival of the seventh and eighth, similar to that of what we know of some of the so-called even Muslims who make war with these beliefs. It's sad to say, in certain Muslim countries, certain Muslims, not all of them, certain Muslims that also make war with the correct belief. They're there. A lot of people think that, well, just because a Muslim country that these beliefs, no, you'll find that in Egypt right now, they're trying to destroy Shaykh al-Islam and Taymiyyah's boats. They're trying to destroy him. Why? Because they're adopting philosophy again. Philosophy is starting to take over again, and they're trying to, any book that so-called goes against that, they're trying to wipe it out. So don't think that these affairs is just America, it's all over. Wars being made by Aqidah to set up everywhere. Everywhere, in every place all over the world. But, so you'll find that all these matters, like we mentioned, everyone, are from pure revelation that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave certain people from human beings over the centuries for their revivery. And from them also was the great Imam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who was the reviver of the 12th century, where people thought he brought something new. And you'll find that the great Imam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab also brought evidences to support that what I'm calling you to is nothing new. I'm just calling you to return to what you abandoned. That's it. And clarifying it in the most simplistic way so you can understand it. That what I'm calling you to is nothing what newly invented, and it's nothing what newly introduced, or nothing new. And that's what all the revivers of the religion called to, and they brought their evidences to support it. And this is what Shaykh al-Islam is doing here. He's bringing his evidence. So now he's bringing the reports. So notice he brings the report. So look at the book. It says Abul Qasim al-Azaji brings the isnad upon Mutarrif ibn Abdullah. We said Mutarrif is who? Imam Malik is what? Malik ibn Anas is his Khan. That's his Imam Malik is Mutarrif ibn Abdullah. That's his maternal uncle. That's his maternal uncle. So Imam Malik, it was said that when it was mentioned to him someone who rejected the narrations of our Prophet ﷺ and the names and attributes of Allah, that Imam Malik, when he heard that, he would say this great profound statement of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz. Notice it says in the text, it says, "May yadfa'u ahadith as-sifat," the one who rejects the narrations of Allah's attributes. What do you mean reject it? Either they would distort it, meaning falling into tahrif, distorting it, or nafyu mashtamalat alayh tilka al-ahadith min as-sifat, or negating what those narrations contain as far as what? What do you mean contain? Meaning what they conveyed of affirming Allah's names and attributes. Those who try to either twist its meaning or distort it or negate it totally. Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he said this profound statement, as we mentioned, we already read it. So he said that the message of Allah has brought beliefs, understandings, ways, authentic prophetic traditions, that holding on to it, clinging to it, is what? Is obligatory. He says, "Al-akhdhu biha tasdeeq li kitabillah." Accepting it, holding on to it, holding firm upon it, steadfast, being firmly upon those matters, he says, is belief in the book of Allah. Tasdeeq li kitabillah. And also what the rulers had also brought of the same ways, beliefs, and prophetic traditions. And he's talked about, like we said, the Khulafa al-Arba'a, al-Mahdiyun, al-Mashhud lahum, al-Mashhud lahum bil-Imam, or bil-Khilafah. That the Messenger of Allah ﷺ had talked about the four great Imams after the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, al-Khulafa, I don't know why I say Imam, al-Khulafa. The Khulafa, Abu Bakr, or Umar, or Uthman bin Ali. And the Messenger of Allah, as we know, said, hold on to their sunnah, because also what they brought forth of those ways, or what they will bring forth, is also what? Confirming what I have given you. And it will also be a means of proper guidance, and it will be a means for your victory, your salvation in this world and in the hereafter. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ was saying, holding on to them will be the source of all these great merits that we just mentioned. So he mentioned it, said, let's go back to the book again. Tasdeequn li kitabillah. Holding on to those beliefs that the Messenger of Allah brought, tasdeeq, meaning confirming it is belief in the book of Allah. As we know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a command to hold on to those beliefs, and that's the what? Foundation. And that holding on to that proper guidance is confirming not only, of course, of what comes in the book of Allah and also in the sunnah of the Messenger of Allah. And that when a person has now implemented that in his actions, meaning from the obedience of Allah and His Messenger. So a person accepting that guidance, and what will complete that, it will show that you truly have embraced that affair, is obedience of Allah, meaning the actions, which will perfect it. Perfect that belief, which will be implemented in your actions. And notice what Umar said at the end of the statement. Look at it, says, وَقُوَّةٌ عَلَى دِينِ اللَّهِ. Holding fast and strong and firmly to the religion of Allah Ta'ala. Meaning that all these matters and what you want to now hold on to be a means of your survival in this world, that the Messenger of Allah, in the same hadith that we talked about of holding on to those khulafa, notice he said in the hadith, he says that every human being after him, you will see a lot of different things. Things you'll deem to be strange, things that will be a reason for your misguidance. They're going to come your way. Things that will take place of different occurrences, different events, different catastrophes, different things in your life, things that could either rock you and shift you to go either this way or that way. And the Messenger of Allah had informed us of that. He said, this is the things that you will find, and that you will also see in your life. As a result, the Messenger of Allah ﷺ knew this will happen to everyone. And what will come as a result of it could be a source of your misguidance if you do not have something to hold on to. If you don't hold on to this affair, you will fall into deviation or a means of your destruction. And that every human being, if you was to obey them and their beliefs and their ideologies and their opinions, especially that we know in these days and times that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has tested the creation by allowing certain devils to be very eloquent in their speech, to be very decorated, and to be very well versed in how they convey certain messages and say certain things. And how they can be a means of your misguidance and your destruction if you don't have proper foundations to hold on to. So these foundations is mentioned in this short statement by the great Imam Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, rahimahullah. He says it clearly. He said, the message of Allah brought to you proper guidance. Al-akhdhu biha tasdeequn li kitabillah. Having acceptance of that is what? Is belief in the book of Allah. From your belief, and then it being perfected is an obedience of Allah. Meaning in your actions. He says, وَقُوَّةٌ عَلَى دِينِ اللَّهِ. And that will bring strength for you to hold firm to that, is to learn this belief. Learning it will be quwwah upon the religion of Allah. Might for you to what? Stand firm upon the book of Allah during those great problematic trying times that you will face, because they're going to come. The occurrences and the waves of confusion in the minds of the people will come. For you, it's incumbent upon you to revert back to certain affairs that you abandoned, so you can be guided okay and be guided the proper way. Now listen what Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, he goes on to say, لَيْسَ لِأَحَدٍ مِنْ خَلْقِ اللَّهِ تَغْيِيرُهَا. It is not for anyone from the creation to change it. To change it, meaning from anything that has been clearly established and legislated, affirmed, it's been established. No one can, it's not for anyone to come and change it. Say there's a different way. Or to remove something. Or to distort its meaning, especially the affairs of the names and attributes of Allah. By saying that, oh no, what we're doing is now what? Explaining the name or the attribute of Allah. No, you're not explaining it, you're distorting it. By your removal, or by you removing a meaning and putting in its place another one, is considered distortion. And those type of distortions, as we mentioned and said, are from the means of destruction. These are from the means of destruction, like we said, change in the names and the attributes of Allah is a part of atheism. Keep that in mind when you now say, no, Allah does not descend. Rather, it's His mercy. That's a meaning of atheism. That's a partial type of what? Atheism. Because you're denying something that Allah Ta'ala says that He does, until the ultimate goal of it is what? Is complete atheism. So that's the reason why you'll find that Shaykh al-Islam was what? Very stern in these matters. And clarifying to the Muslims, no, if you hear these affairs that Allah descends, it's clear. The only thing you've been prohibited is to look for how Allah does it. That's it. No more, no less. Do not change the meaning. Do not distort it. Do not remove the meaning that Allah said in the context and put in it another what? Another meaning. Those affairs are clear. And that if you do that, that is from changing it, which you'll find that Umar ibn Abdul Aziz said in the statement, not to do that. Now this is what Umar ibn Abdul Aziz says in his profound statements. He goes on to say, rahimahullah. He says, وَلَا النَّظَرُ فِي شَيْءٍ خَالَفَهَا. Nor is it permissible for anyone to look. Nor is it permissible for anyone to look in those matters that what? Are in opposition against it. Meaning opposition against the proper guidance. It's not for you to look in those books and be curious and say, well, I know what I'm looking for, and I'll just take the truth and I'll leave off and abandon the falsehood. You don't even know the truth and the falsehood to know what to take and what to reject. In addition to that, those affairs, he said, to look into that was in opposition against the truth. It is not for you to do that. Or to even look to it, or to take it as a source of guidance. Then he goes on to say, rahimahullah, خالف من سن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وسنه ولاة الأمور متبعتهم بل الخير كله في اتباع ذلك. He said the affairs in which all the Salaf had what? Gave us prophetic ways and traditions that have been authentically reported from the message of Allah. They also gave and conveyed the same thing from those great Sahaba, at the head of them, Abu Bakr or Umar, to the end. All of it is good of what they what? Brought, and it's obligatory for us to what? Follow. That the message of Allah commanded that you follow. And it is not for you to look into anything or give any heed or any type of attention to what opposes it. At all. Why? Because it's in opposition from the religion of Allah Ta'ala, and we know it is in opposition against the book of Allah and the sunnah, the message of Allah. Allah eventually will humiliate it. Allah will humiliate any call that opposes His call. If it's not now, it will be eventually. All of those calls will be humiliated, and Allah is humiliating them now. Like you see, the affairs of liberalism is being humiliated right now because a lot of affairs are falling apart. Because of that strong, perverted, aggressive type of push of liberalism upon the people today. In the form of LGBTQ and other things. And you see it falling apart. And Allah is humiliating it, even in front of the non-Muslims. He's humiliated in front of them. Till even the non-Muslims are complaining this affair is disgusting. What are you doing? So you'll find, Ya Ma'ashar al-Ikhwa, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned this in His book, that every call that opposes is in opposition of His call, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala humiliated. And that's the confirmation of the ayat, which is Surah Al-Ra'd, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, فَأَمَّا الزَّبَدُ فَيَذْهَبُ جُفَاءً وَأَمَّا مَا يَنْفَعُ النَّاسِ فَيَمْكُثُ فِي الْأَرْضِ كَذَلِكَ يَضْرِبُ اللَّهُ الْأَمْثَالَ. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in His book, as for the scum of what does not benefit the people, eventually it will fizzle out. And as for what truly benefits the people, it will remain in the earth. Like that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strikes the examples. Right, so let's get back to the book. So Shaykh al-Islam goes on to say, من اهتدى بها فهو, the statement of Ibn Abdul Aziz, من اهتدى فهو مهتد. Whoever is rightly guided or takes it as a source of guidance, then he will be rightly guided. من اهتدى, whoever takes as a source of guidance what the message of Allah ﷺ brought and what He came with, and what those great khulafa al-Rashidun al-Mahdiyun min ba'dah, those great khulafa that came after him, that the message of Allah commanded the ummah to follow. Also, if you grasp and take as a source of guidance what they also brought, then you will be rightly guided. And also what came in the great virtuous century that the message of Allah ﷺ also said in the authentic narration, praising those generation, which is a third one, which is the ahd, or the time of the tabi'i. Whoever takes them and their belief and their understanding as a source of guidance, then he also likewise will be what? He will also be what? Rightly guided. In any time and in any place, no matter where you are, no matter what time you are, you'll be rightly guided. And if you seek that aid from Allah by holding on to that proper guidance, Allah will give you protection and He will aid you. And He will give you insight and He will expose to you anyone who wants something evil of corruption. He'll give you insight to see through that nonsense. Allah will allow you to see who's plastic. And you can see right through that nonsense. Because there's a lot of plastic people these days. A lot of them. For those affairs, if you want Allah to allow you, to give you that insight, that furqan, then this is the affairs you need to hold on to. And the people who scare you the most is the ones that they can sense, your enemy can know that you can see through them that they're plastic. As I've seen so many people from the 90s, and they can know that, I know this dude is plastic. And you see here all the people in the room taking them serious, and you in your mind like, this dude is so plastic. So plastic. So see-through and fake. And had 30 people say, oh, look at him. It's just stick in your mind, it's going to be a matter of time. And to this very moment, you still see the nonsense. Hasn't changed. And Allah will always put someone in a place to expose these plastic people. And that's part of Allah to guard His religion by making there are people who are guardians and protectors of His religion in the earth. Just like there are guardians and protectors of the heavens who are the angels. And the guardians and protectors in the earth are the people of Sunnah. And the people who hold on to it sincerely. They will always be in the earth. Allah will put those soldiers there to know and to smell it and sniff out who are these people. And from time there will be more, certain times there will be less. But the most important thing is to hold on to those scholars and those ways and those prophetic traditions that would be the source of your protection. So you don't be deceived by these plastic, artificial people. Is it clear what I'm saying, everyone? Gee. طيب. So you'll find there, brothers and sisters, what does it say? The great Imam Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, where he says, وَمِنْ اسْتَنْصَرَ بِهَا فَهُمْ مَنْصُورٌ. We already mentioned that. وَمِنْ خَالَفَهَا وَاتَّبَعَ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Whoever follows it in the way of the believers, and we know that the meaning of other than the way of the believers here means to who, everyone? The Sahaba. Based upon the ayah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, وَمَن يُشَقِّقِ الرَّسُولِ مِن بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْلِهِ جَهَنَّمَ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whoever opposes the messenger, after the clear guidance has been conveyed and made clear, and he follows a way other than the believers. The meaning of believers here in this context is who? The Sahaba. The companions of the Messenger of Allah. Does not mean the believers in general, but however the source of guidance here means the Sahaba, who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded you to follow. So it's not just in the Sunnah. Allah also commanded the people to follow the way of the Sahaba in his book. It's in there. It's in a lot of ayats, not just in one. You know, it's another ayat. فَإِنْ آمَنُوا بِمِثْلِ مَا آمَنْتُمْ بِهِ فَقَدْ اهْتَدَوْا فَإِنْ تَوَلَّوْا فَإِنَّمَا هُمْ فِي شِقَاقٍ فَسَيَكْفِيكَهُمُ اللَّهُ وَهُوَ السَّمِيعُ الْعَلِيمُ صِبْغَةَ اللَّهِ وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ صِبْغَةً وَنَحْنُ لَهُ عَبِيدٌ. Allah Ta'ala says in this book, what does he say, subhanahu? He says, if they believe similar to how you believe, O Sahaba, then they are rightly guided. And if they turn away, know that they are truly divided. Then shiqaq. And Allah will suffice you in Sami'un Alim. Is it clear, everyone? It's a lot of ayats. It's a lot of them. It's in the Surah Al-Luqman, it's in there too. Surah Al-Luqman, وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيْهِ فإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم وإن جاهداك على أن تشرك بي ما ليس لك به علم فلا تطعهما وصاحبهما في الدنيا معروفا واتبع سبيل من أناب إلي. Ibn al-Qayyim said, follow the way of the one who truly make repentance to us. You will find Ibn al-Qayyim said that's the companions of the Messenger of Allah. Follow the way of the ones who what? Truly made sincere repentance, meaning those who left off kufr, those who followed the message of Allah, those who embraced Islam. Allah commanded the ayat to follow their way. It's a lot of ayats. It's a lot of them. Tafadhal. We'll stop here, inshallah. But I want to dust the statement of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz, the great Imam. Anything else, anyone? We'll stop here. I want to make the lesson too long. Even though a lot of people say this book is a little hard, but this book is a tremendous treatise, but maybe we'll look to see if no or not has to be changed. But it's a book is filled with a bunch of treasures, especially from the statements of the Salaf. Shaykh al-Islam, he really expounded on a lot of different statements from the Salaf in this book. A lot. He brought a lot of statements and a lot of reports. To follow. Tadmuriyah. That was a risala. The people asked from the city of Tadmur.
So is this also considered a risala?
Absolutely.
That's a bigger one now.
It was a little bit more. Well, Aqeedah al-Wasitiyah was more summarized, but Shaykh al-Islam didn't bring all the reports from the Salaf. In this book, he brings the support. He brings the same statements of Wasitiyah in Hamawiyyah. He just brings more evidences. He brings evidences and aqwal from the Salaf to support his call. That's all.
So this is just more in depth.
It's more in depth. That's it. That's it. No more, no less. That's why you'll find the similarities from Aqeedah al-Wasitiyah. People say, "Oh, I don't know Aqeedah al-Wasitiyah." But Shaykh al-Islam to me here in this particular book, he's bringing aqwal of the Salaf. from the Sahaba, from the Tabi'een, from the A'imma, which is very beneficial. People need to know that. They need to know who's the A'imma. Who are they? What's their names? You notice he's bringing statements such as Hamad ibn Salama, Hamad ibn Zayd. He's bringing statements of Rabi' ibn Abi Abdur Rahman, who's the Shaykh of Imam Malik. He's bringing the statements of Abu Bakr ibn Khalal, who's from the great scholars of the Hanbali madhab that took students from the students of Imam Ahmad. And these books help allow you to familiar what are the books of the Salaf. Shaykh al-Islam brings it here. He mentioned books such as Aqid Shar'i, I'tiqad Ahl Sunnah la Dhaka. He mentions it here. He mentions all these books. And the people have to know these. These are the things that a lot of the common folk don't know. What are the books of the Salaf? Who are the Salaf? Who are these people that we're supposed to hold on to of their belief? Who are they? Oh, it's too hard. I don't know those names. You have to, if you don't memorize them, at least familiarize yourself with them. So when you hear that, I know that's from the scholar such and such that we said in the class. Yeah, you have all these other people memorize, LeBron James and all these other people. Why can't you memorize and know who Hamad ibn Salama is? How can you can't memorize and know who Sufyan al-Thawri who was and his value with the people? And Layth ibn Sa'd and Abdul Rahman ibn Amr al-Awza'i. Know these names, have them memorized. These are people who we're supposed to know and their history and have great honor and status in our hearts to know who they are. These are the people who deserve honor and respect. This is who we're supposed to know. And this book allows you to familiarize yourself with that. It makes you familiar and allow you to be acquainted with who these people are. Because Shaykh al-Islam uses them as evidence to show my call is not different. This is what I'm calling you to. There's nothing different. Just telling you to come back and believe it again. Anything else? Father Abdul Ghani.
On the hadith that where can we find it?
It's in here. It's the book.
I'm saying, is it like in Sahih, Muslim, or?
Oh. It's in the statement they say is either in the Ibar or Al-Bidayah wa Nihaya by Shaykh al-Hafidh al-Kathir. Hold on for one second, Abdul Ghani. I'm sorry. It's in from the statements of books of I'tiqad. You have the book by Imam Ahmad's son, Abdullah. It's in there. It's in the books of I'tiqad. It's on all of those. It's in Ladakai's book, Sharh al-I'tiqad Ahl Sunnah. It's in Siyar al-A'lam al-Nubala by the great Imam al-Dhahabi. It's in also Al-Khatib al-Baghdadi's book called Al-Faqih wal-Mutafaqih. It's in there. It's also Tafsir ibn Abi Hatim. It was mentioned, basically it was mentioned the books of belief. It's mentioned those type of books. Anything else, anyone? Anything else? So we'll stop here, inshallah. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.